it's impossible to not have some kind of brand narrative online now, because your staff, your employees, your team, your investors, your customers, they're all posting about your product. To be honest, it probably depends on how quickly Mark Zuckerberg and the team at Meta roll out their ambition for the metaverse. I think it's ultimately going to be us all wearing headsets, but I don't think that's probably 10 years away. I think that's probably 20, 30 years away. I think that's the ultimate transition, and that really will be the next generation. But that's probably 20, 30 years away. In 10 years away, I think it will probably be a mix of, as we are, the technology will be slightly better. Various people will have progressed onto a slightly different version of it by wearing headsets and being in a VR world, interacting with people who perhaps haven't adopted that technology. So there'll be a crossover. But the way the content is delivered, it will be a huge shift in ownership power between the big tech platforms and content creators. We're already in a big content creator economy. And that healthy shift is going to get progressively bigger. We're going to see more ownership of content. The technology is already in its infancy, I think. Still massively misunderstood. I think the narrative needs to be really cleared up against going into what Web3 is. I think Web3 is a big buzzword at the moment, which is and the comms around it is massively skewed. But I think the underlying foundation of it is actually pretty strong, and I think that's what we are going to see going into the next 10 years is content ownership, more money going into the creators. You're going to own your content, and when your content gets reshared, reused, there'll be money exchanging hands between the platforms and the creators. And I think most of the platforms essentially will be on some kind of commission structure. So every time a bit of content gets distributed on Meta or TikTok or whatever it is in 10 years' time, revenue will go to the platform, and the lion's share will go to the creator. I think we're seeing a huge shift, or we have seen a huge shift over the last 10 years, and I think it's going to carry on going that way. We're all living and working in glass houses. Everything we do now is broadcastable. You can't, your company culture, everything is now posted online. Either you have control over it by trying to control your brand narrative or your personal brand, if you're a CEO who wants to go down that route. But even if you don't, it's impossible to not have some kind of brand narrative online now, because your staff, your employees, your team, your investors, your customers, they're all posting about your product. Everything we do now is publicly available, whereas 10 years ago it kind of was, but only in review websites. Whereas now every business, every brand, every employee now has the ability to create a personal brand and a business brand. So social media has really just made everyone's experience kind of turn into a big glass house experience, which I actually think is really, really healthy, because it puts more power to the employee, more power to the customer, and actually more power to the business owner. So I think it's a win-win for everyone.